Okay, here's the second part of the second installment for the video lectures on social psychology for my high school students. Go back one slide just to let you know you are in the right place. This was the last slide we covered on obedience. So now we're moving into attraction, interpersonal attraction. By definition, interpersonal attraction is the extent to which we like or dislike other people. It has nothing to do necessarily with physical or sexual attractiveness or attraction. It's just the extent to which you like other people. We are interpersonally attracted to people of all ages, races, ethnicities. We're interpersonally attracted to people of our own sex as well as the opposite sex. It's just whether you like somebody or not. And there are factors that impact interpersonal attraction. We can all think of people who we like, and we can probably equally think of people we don't really like so much. So here are some factors that impact interpersonal attraction. We'll start with propinquity. And again, these are terms you may not find anywhere in your book or in class. So again, you want to have good notes, and you want to have all this well documented in your notes. So propinquity. This is proximity or physical closeness to others. The closer you are to someone physically, in physical space, the more likely you are to be interpersonally attracted to them, because exposure, closeness, just it creates that propensity for liking someone. Similarity as well. We tend to like other people who are similar to us in terms of, and you want to write all these down, in terms of attitudes, beliefs, personality traits, habits, values, etc. So again, we tend to like people who are similar to us. That's not to say that we don't have friendships with, or that we can't like people who are different from us. But generally we tend to like people who are sort of like we are, sort of like us. Also, affective states. How we feel at a given time can influence whether or not we like someone, especially when we meet them for the first time. And we've talked about that already with the halo and the horns effect. You know, if you meet someone for the first time and you're in a really, really bad mood, they may be a pretty good person, but your mood is going to impact your perception of that person, and you may not like him or her as much simply based on your mood. Conversely, if you're in a really good mood, if you're having a great day, you meet that same person, that may flavor your perception, and you may like that person. So your mood is going to have a lot to do with interpersonal attraction, especially initially. Physical attractiveness. Physically attractive people make us feel good. Research tells us that anyway. And there are specific ways we define what is physically attractive within our culture. Every culture does it differently. I won't turn this into a sociological, soapbox lecture. But we, generally speaking, we like people who are more physically attractive. And there are reasons that we could talk about behind that. So, leadership. This is another piece or component of social psychology that I wanted to cover in class. Now, leadership by definition, this is the process through which one member of a group, its leader, influences the other group members toward attainment of shared goals. So I'll give you that definition again, and then we'll talk about the different types of leadership. Okay? Leadership is the process through which one member of a group, its leader, influences other group members toward attainment of shared goals. Every group tends to have a leader. Even in your friendship group or your clique, probably there's a leader. The classroom in theory that you're in has a leader. I guess that's supposed to be me, right? Your school has a leader. If you work, where you work, you have bosses, you have supervisors, and you probably have leaders as well, just people who kind of step up and kind of take charge and kind of guide the behaviors of its members. Now, there are 5 types of leadership that we'll talk about here. The first type of leadership is instrumental leadership. Instrumental leadership focuses on completion of tasks or goals with an emphasis upon achieving these goals, but less of an emphasis on group morale. So instrumental leaders recognize that group morale is important. In other words, people feeling good about what they're doing and feeling good about themselves, that's important. But more important than that really is getting the job done. Okay? So they recognize both, but it's more of a focus on getting the job done. The next type of leadership is expressive leadership. Expressive leadership focuses more on the well-being of the group and group morale, with less emphasis on achieving goals. So, kind of the opposite. Again, expressive leaders recognize the importance of obtaining goals and getting things done, but their focus is more on making sure that the group members feel good about themselves and each other. Because if you don't have people feeling good about themselves and each other, you're not going to have people, you're not going to be able to lead people, because you're not going to have people around. So just two different ways of looking at leadership. Not that one leadership style is any better than any other necessarily. Now, the next type of leadership is authoritarian. Authoritarian leadership, these leaders focus on instrumental concerns. Okay, so they're worried about getting the job done, with less of an emphasis on morale. But also they take personal charge of decision making, and they demand that group members obey orders. So they're like pretty much my way or the highway kind of leaders. You've probably had authoritarian leaders, probably some of your teachers, maybe your parents are authoritarian. You could probably think of examples of people who fit all of these types of leadership that we're talking about. So again, the authoritarian leader, they're more instrumental. They're focusing, they may have a little tiny grain of worrying about what people think and how they feel, but they're way more into getting the job done and taking it a step further, demanding that group members obey orders or else. Now, the democratic leaders, if you will, these leaders by definition are more expressive. Okay, so they're focusing more on the well-being of the workers, and they include everybody in on the decision-making process. So democratic leaders, again, are more expressive. They're not saying pretty much my way or the highway. They're giving the group members some authority to make some decisions. Then you have the laissez-faire leadership. These leaders are probably not super effective. These are leaders who allow the group to function all by itself, all on its own. They don't tell anybody what to do. They just kind of bow out and let things happen. Not effective leadership, probably the least effective, if you really want to get down to it, of all the leadership styles. The research is all over the place on this. Authoritarian leaders, who are more instrumental, tend to get more done. They get more results. They get more achievements at work from their people, from their workers, but their workers don't like them very much. And group morale is typically low, and there's a lot of turnover. However, democratic leaders, while they may not get as much done in terms of results or achievement, they're still getting stuff done, but they have a happier workforce. If you're a teacher, you have a happier class. And group morale is up. People feel better about themselves and each other. And that's I guess that's sort of the trade-off there. So, and again, the laissez-faire leadership is just not effective at all, according to the research. It's just not. It doesn't work very well in terms of group morale or getting results. So, then we'll end up by talking about helping behaviors. What is it that makes someone decide to help someone in a situation, whether maybe they're injured on a street, you may have a stranger who's broken down. There are factors that get in the way of helping: fear, anxiety, not knowing how to help, not wanting to be embarrassed. But there are also factors that contribute to why you decide to help someone. Altruism, by definition, is the motivation to increase the welfare of another person. Okay, altruism, again, by definition, is the internal motivation to increase the welfare of another person without expecting anything in return. That's the key there. Again, the motivation to increase the welfare of another person without expecting anything in return. A lot of people argue that no one does anything ever purely for altruistic reasons. Even if you hold a door for someone, you expect a thank you. If you give someone a loan, you expect to get something back at some point in time. If you say a kind word to someone, you expect a thank you. If you let someone out in traffic in front of you, you expect a courtesy wave or something, some acknowledgement. Or maybe we do things purely altruistically, expecting absolutely nothing in return. We have a cat in our neighborhood. It's really been cold recently. He's a feral cat. He has no place to live. And I noticed he was freezing cold, middle of the night, begging to get in the house. Of course, it was very upsetting for me to see this. So I brought him onto our porch, got him warm. We have a closed-in porch where he can kind of get in and out. Set him up some blankets, gave him some food. And I didn't do it to feel good about myself. I didn't do it to get something out of it. Nobody saw me doing it, so I wasn't really getting attention for it. I just wanted to help this poor little cat. So I'm not trying to score points with you guys, but I would like to think, that would be an example of an altruistic behavior. And we've all done things, not just me, we've all done things altruistically, trying to help someone else or something else, expecting little, if anything, in return. Prosocial behaviors, these are, we're talking about acting behaviors that are taken to benefit other people. It could be sharing, cooperating with other people, comforting someone else, or simply helping somebody out. So pro-social, these are appropriate behaviors aimed at helping or benefiting other people out. Again, to include sharing, cooperating, comforting, and helping other people. Now, characteristics of helpers. We'll talk a little bit about these. You'll want to have these down. Characteristic of people who tend to help others include a high need for approval. Typically people who possess a high need for approval help others, because to be approved of, a great way to get approval is to help others out. Also, a predisposition, second point, a predisposition to feeling personal and social responsibility. People who feel personally and socially responsible to help others out, to be involved in welfare organizations or social kinds of programs in the community. Also, empathic concern for others. People who generally possess empathy. They care about other people. And they're able to put themselves in other people's shoes. Tend to line up with people who tend to be helpers, quote unquote. And also, another characteristic of helpers, the last one for this slide, helpers have less concern or exhibit less concern for their own personal welfare and more for others. So it kind of makes sense. We are more likely also to help someone. We are more likely to help someone in need if that person is a member of our group. Okay, what I mean by that, if someone is like, say, maybe my age, my race, my ethnicity, it's another teacher just like me, or another psychologist just like me, we're more likely to help. I broke down, a few years ago, I broke down in my automobile, and at the time I had a bumper sticker on my car. It was something that let people know that I was a psychologist. It was just something kind of dumb. I didn't have it on my car for long. It was like one of those magnets kind of things that you kind of put on your car. And I broke down in Charleston, and this guy stops and he gets out to help me. It's in the middle of the winter time. The weather's terrible. And he stops. He's like, "Are you a psychologist?" And I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am." He's like, "I am too." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I think that's why he stopped, because he perceived me as one of his own. So we are more likely to help people who are similar to us than we are people who are different from us. So that was my lucky day, I guess. Some more characteristics, winding this down, of pro-social and helping behaviors. We are more likely to help people we view as similar to ourselves. Not necessarily in our own group or in groups, but who are just similar to us. In terms, again, of age, race, station in life, socioeconomic status. Rich people are more likely to help rich people. Poor people are more likely to help poor people. White people are more likely to help white people. Black people are more likely to help black people. And those are research-based. I'm not just kind of throwing that out there. Also, we are more likely to help friends or people we like. We're much more likely to help someone that we like as opposed to somebody we don't like. Last, we are more likely to help people we feel are not responsible for their predicaments. If someone is in an accident, or if someone is really in a situation they cannot control, and it's a terrible situation, we're more likely to help as opposed to someone who creates their own mess or their own drama, and then they want to dig out of it. We're not as likely to help someone who creates their own problem. It's just kind of the way that works. Winding it down, the last slide here. We are also more likely to help people when the costs of helping decline. What I mean by cost, if someone's drowning in a river and I don't know how to swim, am I going to jump in and try to save this person? Probably not, because if I can't swim, I'm going to die, and this person is still probably going to die. So that's a high cost. I'm probably not going to help in that situation. But if the costs are low, if it's something as simple as someone drops a book, like a student drops a pencil, I can bend down and pick it up and hand it to him or her. not a big deal, while I'm teaching and not break stride. No cost for me to do that. Also, if the rewards of helping increase, people help, unfortunately, if they realize there could be a reward for helping. Maybe I'll get a cash reward if I help this person out, or maybe I'll get a thank you, or maybe I'll get a phone number from this girl if I help her out a little bit. Not that we think like that, but And then last, there appears to be an increase. If there appears to be an increased cost of not helping, let me say that again. Again, if there appears to be an increased cost of not helping. So, in other words, if you don't help, you could be punished or chastised. People are always, everybody's looking at you, right? And someone in front of you falls down. Everybody's looking at you like, you're going to help this person up? You might not want to, but if you don't, people are going to judge you. They're going to be like, well, why didn't you help her up? You were standing right there with her. Why didn't you just help her get up, pick her books up off the floor? So that was the last part of that slide. And that concludes really the last part of the social psychology stuff that I wanted to cover in class. So we'll call that the end of this part. Thank you.